Good evening, everyone, again. Today is January 13th, 2020. Coming to you again from Scott County, Virginia, in the community of Hiltons, Virginia. This is Jeff Harrington with the Scott County, Virginia Gun Owners. Had a few quick updates for you. We're still working on trying to get some live options. We've been advised by a couple of different folks that there may be some options for going live without having the 1,000 subscribers, but we've yet to get success with that. I just tried a couple of options and couldn't get it to work. So if anybody's aware of anything, we're certainly all ears. We'd love to hear if there are options to do that. But regardless whether you do that or not, if you're in this fight to try to help out, what can you do? You can vote, get ready people register to vote, but also subscribing and clicking the notifications button down below, sharing this video. All those things are ways that we can help to get this word out with what we're trying to do here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I know there's been some comments about trying to get more people subscribed and potential funds that may come into this channel. We've already talked as an administrative group, and if any funds do come into this group, anything and everything we're going to get, we're going to turn right back into the community. So that might be through some of the local women's shelters, food banks, something along that lines. This channel is not at all intended to generate any sort of income for any of the folks that are involved with this. This is purely for the intention of trying to spread awareness, education, and opportunities around defending our God-given Second Amendment rights. So just to clarify that, but be sure to click subscribe down below and hit that notifications button. We've done great. We've jumped up in a lot of numbers. I'm not sure what the last registered or the last number of subscribers were that I looked at, but it's growing, and let's keep that going in that positive direction. So again, just had a couple of quick updates for you today. Probably one of the most important ones is we are going to be, as long as we can, get the live option working on YouTube. We will be going live from Richmond. I actually just booked my hotel today. I'll be staying downtown, hopefully have viewing distance to the Capitol from where I'll be. And so I do plan on being there and trying to represent you guys and all Second Amendment owners. Trying to be literally feet on the ground to be there and represent, talk to our elected representatives and talk to them about what we want and the fact that we want our Second Amendment rights to be no further infringed than what they already are being infringed upon. So we do plan on being there live. We hope to do that through YouTube. If we don't have it through YouTube, I guess we could do a live event through Facebook, but I'll be honest with you, I'd really, really, really like to go public option because I know there are folks out there that do not have Facebook, so we really need to push hard to find a way of getting live through YouTube, and we know that can happen 100% for sure by having 1,000 subscribers through YouTube policies. So without trying to find a back door, that will get us there if we can get 1,000 subscribers. So any shares, likes, and promotions for getting more subscribers, we would certainly appreciate that. Again, that's coming up next January 20th from Richmond, Virginia. A little bit more information on that. We have also been contacted by one of our local television organizations, WCYB. So we're going to be getting interviewed by them as well in Richmond. I'm for sure going to be talking with them on the 19th. I may even be tagging along with them on the 20th. We don't have all the details of that yet, but that's definitely in the works. And we're definitely going to be getting a good promotion and reach out through that particular venue as well. Today, I will say we've had the event today in Richmond. The NRA was throwing the lobbying day for the 13th for today. I've not, unfortunately, heard not a lot from the folks in Richmond today, but I did see some pictures online. It seemed like there were good numbers. I've not caught anything on the news that indicated any negative attention in Richmond, so that's a positive note. So if anybody's heard anything about that, comment down below if there's any good links you're aware of or any good videos. Comment those down below. We certainly welcome any and all input. So if you're curious, read down through the comments and see if somebody's maybe shared a comment or any links to videos from today's NRA event. We certainly have been praying and very hopeful for a positive event today. So everything that I've seen so far, which has just been a couple of snapshots of folks in the legislative offices up there, I think it was a good event, which is great. We want to have a peaceful event, and we want that political persuasive pressure on our elected representatives. So in that degree, that went well. I want to talk real quickly. It's a little bit of older information. Some of you may have heard and seen some of the news going around on the internet about the rules that have changed this year for the capital area there in Richmond. The fact that you're no longer allowed to have firearms on you, whether with a concealed carry permit or, again, through the Commonwealth's policy of open carry. The newly elected Democrats for the House and the Senate had a subcommittee that did declare and come up with their new rules. Their rules were that firearms were no longer allowed. Basically, they said that even legislative officials are not even allowed to have their firearms. Concealed carry permit holders are not allowed to have their firearms. There's a great video going around. You can search, I'm sure it's on YouTube, or if you're on Facebook, you can search and find something about House Rules Committee, guns, Richmond, something along those lines, and you'll find a video that shows the vote. I believe it was an 11-5 vote. It was a purely partisan line vote. All the Democrats in the committee, which were, of course, made it to be in a majority, the 11, they all voted yes to have the policy, the new rule. And the 5 Republicans on the committee, they all spoke out against it. They all had words. They even asked for an actual delay in the decision because several of them weren't even notified they were on the committee or what the agenda was going to be until late the night before. I believe some of them even said they didn't get the agenda until the morning of that particular session. So a perfect example, again, just showing that the folks that are pushing these laws, they don't have any honest intentions. They do not want transparency. They don't want to have a conversation. They simply want to ram through whatever policies and guidelines and rules that they want to push through. Historically, it's been allowed there. There have been a number of issues and occasions where there's been an accidental discharge of firearms. Certainly those cases are accidents. They were issues, accidents occur. Accidents happen. Was it from negligence, or was it just purely an accident, or perhaps even a malfunction of a firearm? I don't know the details to that. I don't know that. I've heard there were 2 different cases. One, I believe, was on the floor of the Senate, an accidental discharge, and another was in one of the senator's offices. But again, no injuries were reported in either of those cases as far as I know. And there may be others. That's just the 2 that I've heard. But it's been a long-term policy that they've been allowed to carry. Exceptions to the rules will be the Capitol Police. So you will see Capitol Police in Richmond that may still be carrying their firearms. Additionally, technically speaking, legislative officers, they operate by a different set of rules when they're actually in session. They actually cannot be arrested for breaking certain laws unless they're higher level felonies. And this particular item they passed is just a rule. I want to be very, very clear. It's not a law. It's just simply the operating rules for the current Senate and House. They agreed upon those rules. Those can happen at subcommittee levels. I'm going to clarify a few things here in a few minutes on how other bills become laws. But I do want to be very, very clear. That particular one, it's getting a lot of attention. Some people are saying they've already pushed a law through. They're ramming these laws down our throats. And I will say that they certainly are trying to push some of these through. But that particular one, if you hear about firearms on Capitol grounds, that is just a rule that can easily be overturned by another committee if they decide to change the rules for the 2021 session, for instance. So a few clarifying points on that, but I do think it sets a precedence, and it really shows the deceiving intentions of quite frankly, the Democrats that are in control. We really see this as a bipartisan channel. I think it's clear to say that Republicans certainly are the majority that are supporting our Second Amendment rights, but we know we do have Democrats out there that are conservative Democrats that also support our Second Amendment rights. But it's just obvious to show that the Democrats that are in there right now, they have no conservative values at all, and so their only desire is to push in quite honestly, an ignorant and a fear-based agenda on firearms. So a few clarifying points. That happened on Friday the 10th, by the way. I probably could have mentioned that in my first video, but I wanted to take a few minutes now to mention that. I said I was going to talk a little bit about how items in the Commonwealth become a law within the Commonwealth. Now, I don't claim to be a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. I'm someone that just goes out, and I'm just like everybody else. I'm just a citizen of the United States, law-abiding citizen that wants to defend and preserve all of our rights. But from the understanding that I have, the way that essentially within the Commonwealth that a bill or a proposal can get elevated to law status It happens at the state level essentially the same way it does at the federal level. So let's say that a House bill, which has a prefix of HB, so House bill, you also have Senate bills, they prefix with SB. I believe there's also House Judiciary Committees that prefix with a HJ. I may be wrong on the exact term on that, so feel free to correct me in comments if I got that wrong down below. But essentially, within either one of those branches, the bill will be brought forward. It can be sent to a subcommittee where it can be revised and people can investigate it, read it further. It can be referred to other subcommittees and bounce around within those subcommittees for quite some time. But if it's passed at the subcommittee level, if it gets approval, I want to be very, very clear because I think we've already had some of these that have been passed, as they called today. People are saying, well, that bill passed, and people are thinking it's a law. If it passes at the subcommittee level, that does not make it law. If it's a subcommittee within the Senate and it passes, then it has to go up to the full Senate to get reviewed by all the senators and voted on there. It can be sent back to subcommittee. It can be rejected. It can be approved. So if it passes in the Senate, it's still not law. It has to then, as far as I understand, and again, if there's anybody else out there that knows these laws better than I do, please, by all means, bring this up. But there's some great online references you can find that kind of walk you through this. But essentially, if it's passed in one, it's then sent to the other. So if it passes in the Senate, it can get passed to the House, where it will then go down and can also get bounced around in subcommittees. It can get rejected at a subcommittee level. It can be edited, revised. But eventually, at some point in time, the House also has to vote and approve on that. Once you get approval from both the Senate and the House, then it goes to the office of the governor. It's my understanding, I think if they're in session, it sits on his desk for 7 days. If he does not take action on it in 7 days, it's my understanding it goes into law. Within that 7-day period, he can approve it to get it into law faster. Of course, he can also reject it. He can veto that particular one. If he vetoes that, it can go back to the House and the Senate, where if there's a 2/3 majority, it can bypass what the governor says. So very similar to our federal level laws. The exact same thing happens there with vetoes in our federal Senate and House as well. So there is a process. It's a rather lengthy process. I think just like what we saw on Friday with the subcommittee passing the House rules and the Senate rules, it's going to be very, very interesting to see how fast-paced some of these potential bills do go through. I heard word today that there were several that passed the subcommittee level. I'll be very honest with you, I'm not following a lot of these on a day-to-day basis. I see that as kind of a waste of resource. To be completely honest with you, I'm kind of planning for the worst. I think a lot of these bills probably will pass. I think our focus is best spent right now on trying to first suppress it at the House and the Senate level. So we're encouraging everybody to make those phone calls, send emails. That's where we need to be focusing, and not so we're focusing on the subcommittee level. Of course, some of these folks we're talking to are in these subcommittees, so it could also have a way in there. But I'm not every single day following along with these. We've got several other resources. They're doing that for us, and it's also pretty easy to find the alarming ones that get posted online to know what's the troublesome ones that we really need to be concerned with, and where they sit in the status. I'll also point out if there's a particular ones you want to follow, you can do a online search for the Virginia Electronic Legislative System. I don't know exactly what the website is, but if you search along those terms, it's pretty easy to find. That allows you, once you sign up, you can actually follow along and see any one of the bills. You can actually create an account and actually set up for automatic notifications based upon changes to certain bills that you may be tracking. It'll proactively send you notifications based upon the criteria that you set up. So it's not a great system, but it's decently robust. So of course, one of the ones that got a lot of attention today is the fact that I believe it was SB, the Senate Bill 16, which was one of the ones that had a lot of folks really up in arms, and I believe that was the one about the so-called assault weapons ban. I do not like that term because, well, one, my firearms, they're not weapons. They've never hurt anybody, and they've certainly never assaulted anyone. But SB 16, I believe, was, last I'd heard, I believe it was rejected at the subcommittee level. A lot of people got real excited and real happy about that. But there's another one, and I don't recall the number of it right off the top of my head. I'll try to get that in a future video to you guys. But there's another one that basically is the exact same thing as SB 16 with some additional really undesirable legislation as well. So just because one gets pushed out or suppressed and denied at the subcommittee or even at the House or Senate level, don't give up, right, folks? They've got a lot of bills that basically are almost word for word the same thing. And I think, again, that shows an undertone of what they're really trying to do. They want to put it through multiple times in the hope that if they say it enough, if they tell you enough lies, that eventually you'll start thinking their lies are truth. And that's essentially the rules they're trying to play with. Again, we saw that with the rules that they passed on Friday. So backing up there, I just want to make sure that we understand that these laws, it's not necessarily a very, very fast process, but again, I think it will be telling if these pass in a very rapid succession. It will show that there's so much behind closed doors and conversations that they're having, because there's no way that they're all going to get together and turn the switch real quickly and really understand what the impact of these bills are. I don't think they're interested in actually having a logical discussion and a reasonable discussion about what the impacts of these laws may or may not be. I think they're more concerned with getting them in there, and once they're law, they'll find out what the consequences are then. And that's just a very, very, very dangerous way to live our life. Laws are very, very, very often difficult to rescind and recall back and get off of legislation. They often require a majority, a supermajority vote, 2/3 majority to get those rescinded. So it certainly presents a troublesome situation. In closing, because I wanted to try to keep this video also relatively short, I did want to mention that we are also looking at trying to have a group meeting. So the Scott County, Virginia Gun Owners Facebook group, we're working on looking at some venues where we might be able to get everybody together and have a conversation, give you guys some face-to-face opportunities to ask some questions. Again, through Facebook, through YouTube, through PMs and Facebook, you guys can certainly reach out to us. I believe our information is shared here. You can get to it through the Google YouTube page as well. Got some messages popping up here. Pardon me for just a second. So please, by all means, if you have any questions, specific topics you'd like discussed, specific bills you want us to talk about, specific anything that you want us to maybe have a conversation on, we welcome that, right? Now, we do want to stay on topic, so although our hearts and our minds and our passions can certainly sway to other areas, this channel, again, is about really the Second Amendment, and that's what we're trying to focus on. So we certainly think there are other things that tie into the Second Amendment, but for the most part, we're going to try to focus just on Second Amendment issues. So I know some of the future videos we've talked about, I've thrown out to the group there, about maybe doing some educational videos, right? We might do some firearms reviews. I don't know. It might be kind of fun. I have a lot of firearms that are my favorites, so if I have the opportunity maybe to have a conversation and talk about those particular firearms and the benefits or the history of them and the heritage therein, it might be fun. I've got, you can see one of our percussion rifles hanging up here behind me here. So that's where it all started, folks. By the way, just for those that use the assault term, that's the original assault rifle right there. 1776, shot heard around the world. That was the modern technology at the time. That was their highest modern technology. I think it'd be great to do a historical view one day. I'd love to do a video maybe talking about the puckle gun, if some of you are not familiar with the puckle gun. People constantly say, well, semi-automatic firearms weren't around when the Constitution was written. Well, those folks have never heard of the puckle gun or others because there were multiples. The Giordani rifle, air rifle, was a very, very powerful, interesting rifle that was actually sent with the Lewis and Clark expedition out west. It was also it was an air rifle, so it wasn't even a combustion rifle, but it was a very high caliber, semi-automatic, very multiple rapid fire firearm. Pretty interesting piece of history there. So again, maybe we'll do a video on that. Other videos we might talk about, what are some discussion points if you're having a conversation? What are some of the common arguments that you're going to hear from folks that are on the anti-gun side of the house? And we'll maybe like to have a conversation about how you can, common ways of diffusing those situations, right? And how you can handle those debates. For instance, it's a common argument, people compare the Second Amendment to driving a vehicle, registering your firearms, right? You should register your firearms, you register your vehicle. Well, people don't realize that driving a vehicle is a privilege. it requires a public access. It requires a road. If you buy a vehicle and you plan on just using on your private residence, you don't have to register that vehicle. So there are certain things and analogies like that. Again, I'll elaborate that in a future video. But again, if you have topics or particular items you'd like to see us talk about, post them down below, send them to us on Facebook, reach out to us through email. Let us hear from you. We want to hear from you, and we want to keep this channel going. It's your channel. This channel doesn't belong to us. Again, like I said in the beginning, any revenue that's ever going to be generated, I don't know if it ever will be, but if it ever is, that's going to go back into the community. We'll certainly make sure some way of ensuring transparency for that, because this video's, there's no intention here at all other than just educating the public. This is your all's channel. It's not my channel. It belongs to you guys. So again, hit the subscribe down below. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up today. I think that covers all the main points I wanted to talk about. Hit subscribe, hit the notifications. We are going to be coming to you live one way or another from Richmond. I hope to do it on YouTube if we can get enough subscribers. But if not, they'll probably be on Facebook. Again, I really want to get it below, so please hit that subscribe button. Share this video, share it on Facebook, share it wherever you can. Again, we're not trying to drive out those numbers other than any other reason than trying to get a live event for you on the 20th from Richmond. We want everyone to be able to see what's going on for themselves. I certainly won't be able to cover every part of Richmond, but wherever I'll be certainly doing my best to make sure you guys stay well informed. So until next time, thank you all very much. Please continue the prayers. I'm going to close in a word of prayer, and I just ask that you continue to pray for us, pray for this situation, pray for all those involved, and that we just continue working this forward. So let's go to a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we want to thank you again for this day. Lord, I want to thank you for this opportunity. Father, I ask that all those that see this video, I hope it speaks to them in a way that you'd have it to speak to them. I hope we can all open our hearts and our minds and hear, Lord, what you want us to hear, Lord, and just open our eyes and let us accept wisdom, accept logic, and accept learning and education, Lord. Don't let fear be the driving factor that is driving so many of these current topics, Lord. Father, just ask that you'd watch over everybody, all those sick and afflicted. Lord, if there's anybody watching that has a special need or desire in their heart, Father, I ask that you just answer that and put your touch on them in a way that only you can. All these things in Jesus' name we pray. Again, folks, subscribe down below, notifications. We'll have more videos coming to you before the 20th, but be sure to hit that down below. Help us get there so that by the time we go on the 20th, we're going to be prepared to bring you the news. Till next time, talk to you soon. Thanks.